maybe. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Friends and Authors Live. I'm Rosalinda Roman here with my co-host and friend, A.K. Vyas, also known as Ash, and we have a really exciting show today.
Yes,
Hi,
we
Ash.
do.
How are you?
Very good, very good. I'm excited, Rosalinda.
Yeah, so I don't want to waste any time with chit chat because we have an amazing adventurer and author who we got to meet recently. So I'm going to introduce her right now. PJ Skinner is our guest today, and she is a fellow indie author. And hello, welcome. Got you right at the wrong time. I'm sorry about that. But people refer to you as Pip, correct?
Yeah, depends, but Pip probably is the best one.
Okay. Hi, Pip. Welcome to Friends and Authors Live. How are you?
Hi, I'm very well, thank you. Yes, I'm just finishing up a book, so I'm quite busy. My mind is all over the place, but I'll do my best.
Oh, well, then you'll fit right in with us. Our mind is all over the place lately, especially for me going into summer. My kids are coming and going, and so there's a lot of all over the place. And Ash, I know the same goes for you because you're always busy.
No, well, if you look at my flat behind me, I've got about 1 million things on 1 million shelves, and I just had a friend to stay who's got two children. One is 5 and one is 2, and so they competed to see who could break the most things in my flat over the weekend. I was just running around going, no, don't touch that. No, don't touch that.
That's
they only broke
understandable.
one thing, actually, so that was pretty good. I call it a win.
So Ash and I got the chance to meet you in Ireland.
Very good, very good.
I interviewed Pip briefly, just kind of a post-show, what did you think kind of thing. But Ash, you're the one who had a great conversation. So I'm actually going to hand over the baton and let you take the helm right now.
Yeah. You know, we met in Dublin at the conference in April, and we have mutual friends, Steve Higgs and Tony Lee, and I was catching up with Steve and Tony, and Pip happened to be there, and you know, everybody has an area that they do well or they do something different, and she was talking about some of the things she did, and we started talking and talked to her. You know, the more amazing I thought it was because she has a very cool background, very adventurous, did a lot of things in a lot of places that she also had a way of using Pinterest to help her author career. So I thought, you know, we got to have her on the show. Here we are.
So here we are. Yay, I'm so happy. We talked about it, but I didn't know how we were going to pull it off. So that's pretty amazing.
Did we cut out for it? Yeah. So
he cutting
Pip,
out for you?
You want to introduce yourself? Do you want to tell folks about yourself and your background? Yeah, you're cutting out right now. So, Pip, can you hear me?
Yes, I heard you ask about my background. Do you want me to do that? Okay, so graduated.
Sure.
I graduated as a geologist, and I specialized in exploration geology. That's basically going out into the wilderness with a rucksack and a hammer, and banging rocks and looking for signs of minerals. And because of the nature of ore deposits, most of the easy ones have been found already. So a lot of my career was spent in dangerous and remote places. And by dangerous, I mean civil war going on around me and that sort of thing. I mean, actually dangerous, physically dangerous. But I don't know, when I was young, and well, now, I wasn't really, I wasn't afraid enough not to do it. And actually, I was braver than most of the guys. So I used to take the jobs that nobody else would. So I ended up working in places like Angola, Sierra Leone, the Colombian highlands, right in the middle of terrorist territory. And I worked in UNITA country in Angola, and I worked in Eastern Congo. In fact, in the town where they have an outbreak of Ebola at the moment. And actually, when I worked in Guinea, I also worked in a town where Ebola started. So I don't know if I'm like Typhoid Jenny or whatever, Typhoid Mary. I seem to have Ebola following me around Africa. And I worked in
So
Siberia.
interesting. I just read about that this morning, as a matter of fact, the Ebola breakout.
It's the town that I used to fly into from Uganda, because you can't fly into Eastern Congo from the capital, from Kinshasa. You have to go around to Uganda and then fly in from the east. So I used to fly in this tiny aeroplane with this pilot who introduced himself as Mad Mike. So you can imagine how I felt about that. Anyway, so yeah, I did that for 35 years. And a lot of the time was downtime, because when the gold price goes up and down, and diamonds and so on, you lose your job. And also, if you don't find anything, and you lose your job. And if you do find something, you lose your job. So one way or another, being an exploration geologist, you spend an awful lot of the time unemployed. So at one stage, I did an MBA so that I could work as an analyst in the City of London. And I was working as an analyst in the City of London when I sat down one evening. I didn't enjoy my job at all. I hated being in an office. I hated wearing a suit. I hated everything. And also, they were really nasty to me because I wasn't a boy. And it was just boring. So I sat down one day, and I'd written all these diaries when I worked in Angola, because it was very frightening. And I wrote 20 pages a night just to distract myself from the landmines and the machine guns, and the fact we were surrounded by UNITA terrorists. And I started typing it into the computer. And one thing led to another, and now I've written 23 books and 6 children's books, so 29 actually. And the last series that I wrote, first I emptied my head and learned to write. And I did that with 7 adventure books in a series called the Sam Harris Adventures, which is based not so loosely on my geological career. Let's say rather a lot of it's true, but actually most people get it wrong when they try and guess which bits, because actually the more dangerous bits are true, and the other bits are made up to join the true bits together. Anyway, when I finished that series, I wrote 3 books based on an English family who moved to Ireland in the 60s. And it starts with the book which involves the Troubles and then goes on. Then I wrote a space mystery about the first manned mission to Mars, because I saw Perseverance land on Mars. And I kept thinking, well, it's going to drill into the soil, and what if it finds life? And surely there must be people who aren't very keen on, there being life anywhere except Earth. I'm thinking religious fanaticism. And so I wrote a book based on that premise, using Elon Musk's Starship. So I did about 6 months research on all the space, the latest research, so that I could write about a voyage in space. And every time I wrote a chapter, the science would change. So I had to give myself a hard stop. Okay, up to this month, if anything else changes, I'm not changing the book again. So I wrote that. And then I thought I quite liked writing mystery. It was a bit like geology. So, because geology is all about not knowing. In the beginning, when you bang a rock and you might find something that looks like it might have minerals in it, you have 1% of the facts about the rocks that are underneath you, perhaps. And as you move on and you take samples and you drill and all those things, you get more. And each time you get more information, you change your idea. And each time you change your idea, you then set up another program to test that idea. And then you do it again, and you iterate it. And actually, that is very like mysteries. In fact, it's identical. And so I think I had, without knowing it, trained myself to be a mystery writer. And I only was thinking about this last night because I hadn't really thought of it before, but it's why I find mystery so natural, because I've always worked on mysteries. I mean, mining is exploration is a mystery. It's always a mystery. And you don't really know what you have in a deposit until it's all been mined out. So, even then you don't really know because you might have missed a bit. So, it's very good preparation for writing mysteries and for red herrings and for going up the wrong track and then having to come back again, because that happens all the time in exploration. So I started writing the Sea Castle Mysteries, which is based here in Worthing. I didn't call it Worthing because I wanted to move things around, and also I didn't want to refer to real places in case people objected or said, oh, that's not like that, or that building isn't red, it's green, or I don't know. So I just thought, I haven't got time for this. So I wrote the Sea Castle Mysteries. There's 12 of them, as you're showing. And I finished those in February. So I did 4 books a year for 3 years. And then I finished that in February, and I thought, what am I going to do now? And actually, I had been thinking about writing a series all year, a cozy mystery series based in space. And I wanted to base it on the idea of moonlighting. So a lot of people who are of a certain age will have watched Bruce Willis and Sybil Shepherd banter their way through, I don't know how many series it was of moonlighting. And the problem is, at the end, the writers, in this lovely will they, won't they relationship, the writers made the mistake of having her marry someone else, which I thought was the worst writing mistake I've ever seen on screen. And actually, if you speak to people now about moonlighting, they're still cross. 30 years later, they're still furious that Maddie married somebody else and she didn't marry David. So I said, I decided, I'm not doing that. So I'm writing a space mystery series called The Cosmic Case Files. And the first one's called Murder on the Galaxy Bell. And this woman inherits a battered cargo ship. And when she goes to sell it, she finds it still has a crew on board who haven't been paid, and they refuse to leave. So she gets stuck with it, and they get a delivery contract to go out to the Galaxy Bell, which is this rather swish spy liner in space. And they go out to do the delivery, and she's hoping to pay them off and finish it. And then while they're there, someone gets murdered, and the murderer is pinned on one of her crew members. So they have to learn to work together and so on and so forth. So that basically is the start of the series and how they end up running a detective agency on a cargo ship. So I have written about half of that, and actually I'm really enjoying it. It's rather exciting. It's rather exciting to write. And hang on a sec. One of my, here we go. I don't know why, but this thing has popped up and I can't see you. Okay, so and then when I had come to the conclusion I would write that series, then I got another really good idea. And I thought I was moving to Portsmouth, which is along the coast that way, and I kept getting this idea about this detective who is having a midlife crisis. Basically, he's sort of been coasting for years, and he's sort of fallen in a heap a bit. And he comes home one day and finds that his wife has left him. And he's completely surprised because he didn't have a fight or anything. And he hasn't even got time to adjust to that when he's called up and told to go and meet a rather nasty local politician whose son has run away yet again. And they need someone to go and sort it out. And anyway, it turns out that the boy's been murdered, and Bill gets for this case. And so he has to relearn his detective skills. Meanwhile, at home, his daughters are doing their A-levels and GCSEs, which is 18-year-old and 16-year-old exams in English. And the daughters are not used to doing anything for themselves. The mother has done everything her whole life. She's done all the cooking and cleaning and everything. And the three of them are suddenly faced with the shock and horror of having to look after their own household because the mother's just abandoned ship. And so it's sort of the domestic drama parallels the murder drama, where the boy is living in a dysfunctional family where he was hiding a secret from his family. And so I'm just finishing that, and actually I'm a pantser, so I just write, but I've been a bit more sort of methodical about it this time. And so I know what my last 5 chapters are, because I have the habit of rushing to the end. I rush to the end because I get too excited. And then my endings are always too quick. And people actually complain that they didn't have time to luxuriate in the ending because I just go, whoom.
I resonate with that. I understand that.
It's finished, go and read another one. And so I've been really concentrating on trying to make this more of a thing, the end of the book. And so if that goes well, I'll write more. And if the other one goes well, I'll write more. And if they both go well, I suppose I might have to write them both. But I'm sort of thinking, you just never know what's going to take off, because Sea Castle Mysteries, I mean, I wrote them after having written the other stuff and having zero success, you know, sales trickling in and the odd review, but no success. And I couldn't sell them. And I, you know, did all these advertising courses, and I thought, my writing must be terrible. But then I read the reviews and I kept thinking, why are my reviews so good and my writing's terrible? And I kept thinking, well, there must be something I can do about this. And then I wrote the first Sea Castle mystery, and within a month I knew why it was different. I mean, people read mysteries, cozy mysteries. That's the difference. And so I started getting loads of reviews, and people will pre-order the next one. And I thought, oh God, it's easy, isn't it? It's easy. You just have to write something people actually want to read. And you know, can tell you that and tell you that, and they can tell you that again. But do you believe them? Do you actually understand that people will only buy what they want to read? And that is, I think, one of the things that authors find the hardest to get over, is understanding that if you are writing things people don't want to read, then it doesn't matter how good they are, people are not going to read them. That's just it. You know, nobody wants to read my adventure books because they've got a woman protagonist and there's no exploding helicopters. And so men hate them because they haven't got fist fights, and women hate them because why would they read about a woman in the jungle anyway? You know.
Interesting.
Yeah, where are the husband and children?
What I find interesting is that parallels my writing is you take what your adventures are, what your life experience is, and I know Ash does this too, and I think so many writers do it, and you put it into your books, so it becomes, you know, some of these things that you lived and you've had so many lived experiences are now fictionalized, and you've learned from the process, which makes you exactly the perfect indie author, right? You saw what wasn't working and you didn't give up, which I think a lot of people would give up.
And also, when I'd finished Sam Harris, I just needed to get that out of my head, because I had 35 years of working in the jungle in my head, and nobody wanted to hear about it. If I went to a pub and someone was talking about their boss being horrible to them, and then I said, oh, and I'd say something like, oh, there was a mamba in my cupboard last month. You know, they would clear the room. They just had either they wouldn't believe me, or men would be furious because my stories were better than theirs, or women didn't know what I was talking about. So I just gave up speaking. I think there's a word for it. Anaphylaxis, something like that. I used to know what the word was, but it's basically not being able to talk about something because nobody will listen. And so I had it all stuck in my head, and I actually felt ill because I couldn't rid myself of it. And when I wrote the Sam Harris books, I remember writing the last one, and I felt this huge relief and this huge emptiness in my head. You know, this new ability to start again, which was just the most wonderful thing. Plus, I think I learned to write over the 7 books. That's my learning experience. And, they're not bad. They get good reviews. People enjoy them. But really, I needed to clear my mind. And the only way of doing that was writing all that stuff down. And when I read them now, I can't even remember what actually happened and what didn't. I found myself telling a story the other day about my experiences to somebody who asked me, and realized I was telling one of the made up ones. So I wasn't actually.
It's interesting.
Yeah, I can't actually distinguish. Maybe there's something wrong with my brain, but I've got to the stage now where I can't even remember what's true. When I read my books, I have to think really hard. Is that something I made up, or is that something that happened, or is it something that happened to someone else?
Interesting. So do you hear an echo, Ash, when she's talking all of a sudden, or is it just on my end?
A little bit.
Yeah.
Do you have had?
Just suddenly it switched. Something switched in the audio. That's okay. It's probably fine. Sometimes you have to put headphones in so that we don't hear the feedback from what you're saying.
I have got headphones I can dig out.
Well, you didn't have them in the beginning and we didn't have a problem. So I'm not sure. Let me see if I can work on it on this end. Meanwhile, Ash, carry on.
Yeah. So the question I had was, you switched from action to cozies, right? And
Yeah.
I just know from the genres I write, there's kind of hard and fast rules that you're not supposed to break for genres. And those are two kind of very different genres. So is it an adjustment? Like cozies, no one's supposed to die, right? Or am I wrong? No cussing, no dying? Is that kind of right?
In cozies, there's no violence, no sex, and no swearing. And so, but my adventures, because they're quite cerebral, I had some violence, but it was, I had the worst violence in any of my books was when some rebels slaughter half of a herd of elephants. And when I wrote that scene, when I finished, I was actually felt sick for a week because I was so horrified by what I'd written. It was so horrifying for me. So I'm not very good at violence, and that's the most violent scene I've written in 23 books. But when I moved to cozy, I read a lot of cozy books, and actually I felt there was a gap in the market for books that were more realistic and contemporary and not so cutesy and fuzzy. So my cozies are kind of different. They're right on the spectrum, the far end, towards more of not a police procedural, but more of a contemporary, realistic feel. And if you read the reviews, the thing people love most is the characters and the fact that they have real lives and real things happen to them. And some of the things that happen are quite sad or quite difficult or quite whatever. But people are so invested. And I've got so many complaints that I wrote the last book. I can't tell you. Nearly every single person who writes on my ads they leave great comments. I love the series. I read them all. La la la. But then they put, can't you write any more books? And what I'd like to write is that I'd rather squeeze lemon in my eyes. I can't. I finished.
That's funny. You have to write what you're willing to write, no matter how much, how voracious your readers are.
I gave them everything. And I fought with them to make them as good as I could, and the mysteries as solvable as I could, despite the red herrings, but that people, if they actually spotted the clues I laid out flat in front of them, which they never do, because that's just a thing. If you actually stick a clue in people's faces, they don't notice.
I love it.
They only notice later and think, "Oh God, I should have known."
Right,
right. And that's what you want. And so I put my heart and soul into these mysteries and into the stories and how the people got through them. And so when I got to the end, I really had finished. But I don't want to ruin people's things. So the other day someone said, "Oh, I wish I knew what was happening now." And I said, "Well, it'll be bedlam around now, and Gita will be making lots of cakes." And that's all I put, because, Gita's the cake maker in the stories. So there was cake and there was a cat, although the cat was bad-tempered and scratched scratched the sleuth all the time and wouldn't cuddle her. And he was sucking up to all the men, but he kept scratching her. So it wasn't the cuddly cat of the cozies. And
Right.
it's not so, I mean,
I
when
wanted to
went,
show, I'm showing a little bit of your one of your Instagram, because it has some of the things that you've just mentioned, some of like a cat, and some of the fascinating places you've been, which people may want to check that out. This is based on the Sam Harris series, right?
Yeah,
so
that's Sam Harris series.
And is this you, by the way? I looked at this. Is this
you?
Yeah,
that's me. That's me when I was 21. I was on a field trip in Cyprus, and that's the sort of lovely thing we used to do, rolling around in the mud. I was quite like being in the army, really.
Okay,
most of my good mates from mining are ex-SAS or ex-French Foreign Legion, because they're the ones I had the most in common with.
Oh my gosh. Well, we could talk about your adventures forever, because you have so many great stories. But I do want to get on to the Pinterest part. So I'll pull that up. Well, Ash, if you want to kind of set that up and talk about that, I'll go find Pip's Pinterest boards.
Yeah, well, no, Pip had mentioned something in Dublin about bots, and why certain sites have bots and certain sites don't, and how the bots can actually help your visibility. So I just thought, well, I'll leave it to her. But I thought it was very interesting, and she mentioned Pinterest, so she knows more about it than I do.
Yeah, well, I mean, basically, it's what we're talking about is visibility. And these days, you really need visibility to be able to get people's attentions, because you're fighting a losing war against there's so much being published at the moment. And the best way of getting visibility is to, be first in the searches for your name and so on and so forth. And I actually watched a seminar at one stage. It might have been Author Update with Thomas Umstadt and Jonathan Scherger, I think, who talked about it. But they said that crawler search bots who crawl the internet and look for stuff can't go into Amazon. They can't go into Instagram. They can't go into Facebook. They can't go into X, because they're blocked. So if they're looking for information on you, they can't find it anywhere. And so where they can go is to your website, unless you've blocked them, which you shouldn't do. So if you have blocked them, you should immediately open your website up, take out the code. I don't know how to do that. Ask Claude, he'll tell you, or chat. And Pinterest is open because it's a different sort of social media. It's a search board. So basically, Pinterest is like when people like my age used to go into the local village shop. There used to be a board there, literally a cork board, and people used to pin stuff on it, like looking for a babysitter, or anyone interested in, I've got, bottles of jam, plum jam I've made. Does anybody want, £5 a bottle or whatever? And there would be a pinned board. And that is what Pinterest is. It's a village board where people pin what they've got that's interesting. But the thing about Pinterest is that it's almost infinite in duration. Now, if you pin something, if you put a post on Instagram, that's about 2 minutes before it's deluged by a deluge of stuff. Same on Instagram. It's gone. Nobody's seen it. It's gone. And that's the end of that. It doesn't come back up. Although I suppose it could do. The same with TikTok. Same with Amazon. You pin something on your feed and it's gone really quickly. I mean, it might be around for an hour or a day. I'm not sure, how much it is for each of the things. But all of those have very finite times where people can actually see what you posted. Pinterest, you put something up, it's there forever. So it doesn't go anywhere. It's just on the village board. So if you leave it up on the board, then people can find it if they look at it today or in 5 years' time. It's still on your board. And so it has this length of findability, let's say, I don't know if that's a word,
Yeah.
that other social media don't have. So that's one of the huge advantages of Pinterest. So the idea is, for anyone who wants to try it, and the other thing is interviews. For instance, I did an interview on the self-publishing show with Dawson and Blatch years ago. I was one of their very first interviews. I think I'm 30 something or 20 something. I don't know how many they've got now, 800 or something. But I was right at the beginning when they couldn't get anyone famous, and they got me when I was particularly unfamous. I can't remember why, but anyway. But that interview is still there, and people still look at it because it's in an archive, and so it's always available. It doesn't disappear anywhere. And the other thing is, last year, my local newspaper, I kept sending things to them, and finally the guy said, "Well, yeah, I'll write an article on you. Send some stuff over." So I sent him, I don't know, a quick biography and some pictures of my books, just stuff, He just printed it. He didn't write an article. He just stuck everything up, which was kind of irritating because I thought he was going to at least, kind of pretend to do an interview or something. But anyway, that's up there. And it's funny because a lot of people from Worthing have started reading my books. So whether it was a good interview or a bad interview, it's still an available interview and it's in the archives. So the idea is to get long-lasting things about you put up there in places where they're not likely to disappear. And of course, as an author, whether you like it or not, one of the main places is your website. And so the idea of this visibility was to write a couple of posts, or start with one post, where you did whatever genre you're in, and you try to get it down to the smallest sub-genre, is to write a list of 10 best of. So, for instance, I did one on 10 best British seaside cozy mysteries. And I did research on which were selling the best. And I made a post on my website, which I also sent out in my newsletter as a newsletter to all the people who are on my newsletter. But it's in my posts on my website, so crawlerbots can find it. And I also made a pin and put it in Pinterest with a link to my website. And I made a board on Pinterest for, I think it's cozy mysteries or something like that, a general cozy mystery thing, and it's got sort of a best cozy mysteries board, something like
And
that.
I think this is what you were referring to, this 10 Great British Seaside Cozy Mystery Book series.
Yeah, so that's the one I did. So that's on a board that I made, which is something about the best cozy mysteries. And then I did another one later, which was the best Christmas cozy mysteries. And the thing is, the crawler bots find this. When people say, what are the best cozy mysteries? This is a ready-made list. Oh, here you go. British Cozy Mystery Collections. Did you see that one? That board?
Yeah, let me go back. Yeah, this one?
Yeah, British Cozy Mystery Collections. The blue one on the left. That's a board. No, the blue one.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, I see it. Okay, let me get to it. This one you're talking about.
Yeah. So that's
British
one of the
Cozy
boards.
Mystery Collection.
That's where I pinned them. And so that's the actual board. And if you look at the board, it's got I did lots of so there it is on my website, you see, with the different murder series. And so people who are looking for good cozy mysteries to read find that list and then click through to my website. But also crawler bots find that, and they're always, people put stuff into Google like, tell me the 10 best cozy mystery series. So if you look up my name, or even if you put 10 best British coastal mysteries into Google, this post comes up. Now, it took a while And the thing is, you mustn't expect it to come up straight away. It took a few months, but it came right up to the top. And now if you put 10 best British coastal seaside mysteries, my post arrives first. And of course, Google is now associating my book, Deadly Return, which is the first book in the Sea Castle Mystery Service, with all these other first books in other series. And they're the most best-selling series that are around. And I just stuck mine in the middle of it. And it actually happens that mine's pretty well best-selling. I mean, it's not, I wouldn't say it's in the top 10, but it's definitely up, doing well. And so it means that the search crawlers are
let me pull it up really quickly because I actually did. I searched it off screen in case it didn't come up, but I did exactly what you just said. And let me show you.
Okay.
Sure enough, first one is yours, PJ Skinner. And all I typed was 10 best cozy mystery series, and that's what came up.
So that's what it's.
Question.
Yeah.
Is your book one of the 10, or is it just you authored the article and your book was associated with it?
Down in the bottom right-hand corner.
Right here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. That's cool. No, because the reason I asked, last episode, Rosalind and I were working on A+ content, and we have a friend who's starting an urban fantasy. So I literally just Googled top 10 urban fantasy novels to look for A+ content. And this author had, I think, done something very similar. She put herself at number 5 on the list, and she must have done it through Pinterest or something similar to what you did. Because I was like, that's pretty clever,
Yeah. So the thing is, you have to have a little bit of patience, and it's worth doing research and doing a proper post that people enjoy and that has all the links so they can click through and buy other series apart from yours. You're not forcing them to buy your series. It doesn't matter who clicks through what. The clicking is irrelevant. What you've done is you've made yourself visible to bots, and you're teaching bots that you're one of the 10 best cozy mysteries series.
Well, and I think, and really,
and also you're getting an association with those other series that bots remember. So if someone sees one of these other ones and says, "What are book series similar to this?" they'll show yours. So you're teaching the crawler bots to recommend your book, and that's going to be more and more important in the future. So the thing is, I'm quite a techie geek. I mean, it's just I'm introverted and techie and geeky, and I'm not good at code or anything. But now I've got my friend Claude. I don't have to be. I just ask Claude to write something. Write some code.
That's funny.
Like last night, I made 2 landing pages to stop bots in Facebook clicking on my ads. I did a landing page with a 2-second delay. Don't ask me what that means. I just found that on one of my things, and it said if you make a 2-second delay, bots they click immediately to go through to your Amazon. But if they can't click immediately, the bot click is lost. So it teaches Amazon, because only real people take more than 2 seconds to decide. And so that's a real click, and Amazon registers that. And then they start learning what real people do and which real people to look for. So you're also training Amazon. So I just thought this was the best thing I'd ever heard. So, of course, I spent till 1 or 2 in the morning making these landing pages, one for my USA ad and one for a British ad, and then got Claude to help me choose an image and everything. And I just stuck up 2 new ads with leading to the landing pages on my website. And the landing pages they're not linked to anything else. They're just a landing page which goes straight to Amazon. But I've been amazed so far. It does seem to be working, and it's kind of weird. But I never let a good idea go past me. If I see something I think that appeals to my logic, I'm a really logical person. If I see something that looks logical to me, I'll have a go. And if it doesn't work, I'll switch it off. Who cares? But at least, that I was working until, 2 in the morning or whatever. But I don't even notice. I don't know what time it is. I don't care. I don't have children or anything. I don't have to do anything. I just work. And I I just saw something that somebody was doing that seemed sensible to me. And I think as an indie author, you have to be brave. And if there's a thing you can't do now, what you have to do is you just have to pay for Claude and chat and get them to help you. Because there's all this stuff about AI, which I think is, excuse me for saying so, but complete bollocks. You know, I'd never use AI to write my books. But AI can code. AI knows if your copy's any good, and it can give you a copy which isn't that good, and you can improve, and you can work back and forwards with AI and do stuff. I mean, ChatGPT, their image thing recently suddenly had a huge upgrade. And I asked it, you know, I made like black and white drawings for the inside of my German translations, which were just brilliant because they were taken from the copies and the covers, and I can't afford to make new covers. You know, so what I've done is I've done one cover and I just put a different object on each cover, and it can steal the object from my British cover and put it on the German cover. I don't know how it does it, but I mean, who cares? So I paid for the British covers, but the German covers, it's an experiment. So I'm using AI to translate chapter by chapter my books, and then to proof them chapter by chapter, and then to look at the whole thing. And I've got a friend who's going to do the final proof, who's a German author, who just happens to have read the whole series in English. And she loves it in English, and she's just started proofing. So I said, hey, fancy proofing them in German? Because she'll know better than anyone in the world if they sound right or not. So I just thought, listen, you know, it's cost me a couple of months' work, but I'm going to have the whole series in German, proofed by a German. So, you know, and I learned that from another seminar I listened to the other day. So I'm always learning. I think as an indie, if you're not innovative, if you're not always learning, you know, you're not going to get anywhere. You have to be brave. You have to be, brave, and you have to be honest with yourself, what you can do and what you can't do. Because I think a lot of people write one book and then think, well, what do I do? You know, they sort of fall in a heap, and you can't really fall in a heap. Well, if you need to, I need to pay my rent. You know, I don't have a husband. They won't employ me anymore in geology because I'm too old and I'm a woman, and I've just screwed myself. When I was younger, at least I was younger, and that was okay. But now I'm a woman and old. It's just too bad. I just can't get a job. So actually, the other day, I put a post on LinkedIn and I said, actually, I retire. And it was really hard to do. But I just thought, you know something? They've never wanted me. And now I'm just going to leave of my own accord. Because actually, I've been dissed and treated like shit my whole life. And this is something I'm doing for myself. I'm leaving.
Well, and you have to admit, though, that those pressure pain points are the very things that make your books great. As a woman, and having been in the mainstream media and the cutthroat environment of television news, I can identify with what you're saying, where you just feel discarded and all of that. And I'm so grateful for those experiences, because those experiences make my characters so much better.
Oh, yeah,
I didn't like them at the time, but
you only have to read about my French Foreign Legion guys to know that I actually met some.
Yeah, exactly.
I knew them quite
Ash,
well.
what were you going to say? And we are way over time, so Ash, go for it.
Well, just two quick questions. There's the infrastructure question. And then there's a question I really want to ask. The infrastructure question is this Pinterest. Is it just a regular Pinterest account or like a business Pinterest account that you use? Do you have to do anything special in Pinterest to do what you're doing?
I can't remember. I think it's business. I think that's so you can advertise, but I haven't advertised, so I don't think it has to be business. But you have to be able to put a link on, and that might be to do with having a business account. I can't remember because I haven't checked recently, and actually hardly ever look at it because I just used it as a tool for getting it so that bots could crawl it and find the 10 best thingies. So
okay, I mean, now the question I really want to ask. So
And the
I read your first book in the Sam Harris series, and I liked it, and I'm going to read more of them. But I see this Nazi theme, right? Did you actually come across Nazis in your as a geologist in like South America?
yeah, I didn't know that
Wow.
Really?
it was actually after I'd left. And I was doing some research because I had this idea for, something like cloning, you know, and I was thinking now, how could I do this, and make it vaguely comic, or at least make the Nazis seem a bit pathetic. And I found this article on Google or something, which was written by an Ecuadorian academic who had, to his horror, his absolute horror, discovered that the Ecuadorian government had collaborated with the Nazis during the war, and that actually had been awarded a medal by the German government for the help that they had provided. And he was so horrified. And I read this whole thing, and it was, well researched and everything. And there was pictures of Ecuadorian politicians and things, doing Nazi salutes and standing on the steps of the Congress in sort of jackboots. It was very bizarre. And then I found out, I got approached by a journalist from New York who insisted on coming to Ecuador, who said that he wanted to meet the treasure hunters. And actually, Alfredo is in the first book. And he was a friend of mine, Diego Arias, who was an actual treasure hunter and who did have a sponsor. And I did hang out with them a lot. They were a pair of old drunks. They were great fun. And his excuse, this journalist said he wanted to meet them because he wanted to talk about the lost treasure of the Incas. But what he actually wanted to do was talk to Andreas's wife. And Andreas was the older guy who was the owner of Wittig in Ecuador, because she was the daughter of a Nazi colonel. And he was actually searching for Nazis. I don't know if he was associated with the, the Nazi hunters.
The Mossad? Yeah, the
No,
Israeli intelligence. Yeah.
No,
No, she's talking about the other side, not the Nazi side.
I can't remember the institute that looks for Nazis. Anyway.
Oh, yeah.
Well, the Mossad is, I think, Israeli intelligence.
Mossad goes around murdering people. I'm talking about the people that actually did the research and brought the Nazis back for trial. And there's something institute beginning with G. I can't remember. Anyway, having put those two things together, I realized I knew. And then I thought, wait a minute, there are a load of Germans that I know in Quito. And then I did some research, and it turns out one of them was living in a hotel, down the road, and he'd lived there for like 30 years in this hotel. And there was someone else, and there was someone else. And I just thought, oh my God, I'm surrounded by them.
Wow. Wow.
All I knew were the children.
Which just goes to show you have so many stories that we could go on for hours, but we cannot, because I have obligations and can't continue this show beyond the time. Yeah. But it has been such a pleasure to talk to you. I mean, I really wish we could talk for longer. You have so many amazing stories.
No, well, don't get me to talk longer. I'd never stop.
Oh, well, you've been wonderful. Ash, do you have anything else you want to add before we wrap it up? I'll take that as a no. I think we got frozen for a minute. But thank you so much for being here.
3 minutes. Yeah.
Did you hear the answer to your question about Nazis? You did hear?
Mm-hmm, we did.
Well, you can hear the recording afterwards. But I mean,
yeah, I did. I think Rosalinda was her internet was frozen. I think for part of that. Yeah.
Okay. I mean,
Gotta
if you
love
want
the
to,
internet.
you can send me questions, or we can talk again sometime, or next year.
Yeah, and
now.
I actually put in the show note or in the comments, if anyone does have questions, they're going to watch this in the replay, put it in the comments and we will get those questions to you and have you answer
Yeah,
them.
and if
for them.
anybody wants to make, a movie out of my adventure shows or my adventure books, or a TV series out of the Sea Castle Mysteries, they're pretty good.
I'm excited. I hope somebody does. I would love to watch it. All right. Thank you so much for being here.
People are asking me. I just need someone
Yeah.
to do it, so I don't have to answer any
Exactly.
more questions.
Exactly. You need your own Hollywood producer. Okay, well, that is it for this edition of Friends and Authors Live. Thank you all for being here. And for those of you watching on the replay, please put questions in the comments and we will get them to PJ, to Pip. And that's it. Thanks for watching. We'll see you again next Tuesday.
Thank
All
you
right,
so much
that's it
for
from
having me,
here.
guys.
Thank you.
Bye, guys. Thank you, Pip.